Black Scully on check. Got a little American. We got this from American Media Days shirt on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode on today's docket. Of course, we got our 6 stories for our Into the News segment. Hopefully, you all are getting adjusted to this new schedule. Us going live around it's between 6 and 6:30 p.m. Haven't quite figured that out, but it'll probably be closer to 6:30 p.m. A lot of changes, a lot of adjustments. Before we really get into today's docket, make sure you guys are following me on Rumble. If you're on Rumble, make sure you guys follow Governor of College Football just like it is and everywhere else. With YouTube, we're not going live on YouTube anymore. There'll be occasions that we go live on it, but something is seriously wrong with the live. You're just better with upload. So what I'll do is go live on Rumble. I'm trying to go live on Facebook at some point as well, and then go live on both of the Twitters. That's college, CFB Nation Twitter, as well as Governor of College Football Twitter. So hopefully you all are having a good day. You guys enjoyed yourself. But let's get into some of the topics we're going to discuss today. We got some more great game previews. I kind of told you guys with this new Sunday to Thursday format that we'll be doing things just a little bit differently. Sunday will be our reaction day, and then more game previews. And I'm excited to do a lot of these previews. Shout out to my dog, East Coast Gridiron. I'll be meeting him for the first time in person this weekend. We will be on the sidelines for that Washington versus Maryland game. There's no other game I'd rather be at this weekend to see 2 dynamic quarterbacks go toe-to-toe. I can't wait to see that. So CBS Sports, you guys know how we always talk about their top 25 QB list that they release every week. And some of it is hyperbole. Sometimes they actually do get it right, and sometimes they just leave people out. I believe a lot of times what we get is kind of an FBS bias. Furthermore, we get like an SEC bias. We all know like the SEC is the creme de la creme, top shelf, upper echelon conference in regards to most people who cover the sport. CBS Sports, they cover a myriad of sports, also cover the NFL. But for people like us who are only college football and college football only, we know that it's more than just the quarterbacks that they have in the SEC. I've talked about all season how dope the quarterbacks in the Big 12 are. We really got some dudes that are shining at the G5 ranks as well. So we're going to look into that as well. And we'll talk about some of the people that they miss on that list as well. Also, we got a really good game. Kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday. We've got a really good game with Miami of Ohio playing NIU and the MAC. I can't wait for Maction to be back. I think it's back this month. Happy October to everyone as well. I know October is a lot of people's favorite month. You all enjoy Halloween and all of that type of stuff. But yeah, we're going to talk about a really good game. I kind of like to call myself the G5 governor. That's why I, open up this show with this American shirt from American Media Days that we got this past summer at American Media Days. And then also after that, we got a showdown in Tallahassee, Doak Campbell Stadium. I think that atmosphere is going to be purely electric, and I think for the many people who just believe that Miami is just going to walk into Doak and just beat the crap out of FSU based on what you've seen last weekend in Charlottesville, I don't think that's smart to do. I just don't at all. That crowd will be electric. I think the refocus and retooling that you'll see from Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn, don't make no mistake about it. Florida State is just killing it, as it pertains to, the points that they're scoring per game. I believe they're number 1 in the country in points per game. That smash mouth spread that they like to run, and I'm going to talk a lot about that. You guys know how I like to do when I break down game previews. Yes, we'll talk a little bit about Jimmy's and Joe's, more about X's and O's, give you guys histories of the game and things like that. But I think we're going to have a really fireworks showdown, and I am surprised that College Game Day didn't consider going there. A couple other places I'm surprised they didn't consider going. Another place they could have definitely went to Cincinnati. I don't believe they ever been there. They might have been when Luke Fickell was at Cincy, but this Iowa State Cincy game is going to be a damn good game. But I can understand them wanting to be in Tuscaloosa. So that's what we're going to talk about on today's show. Governor College Football hashtag GoCFB. CFB Nation, only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football. We're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
Great defensive
on
minds.
the
They have to be better on that side of the I always found it extremely interesting that the more that you learn, while you're doing this thing, I absolutely love college football. I enjoy creating the content. And I know there's a certain thing to it. I know, a great cheat code would have been if I'd have just made the show SEC-based or made it a team-based show. You could pick up a following that way. But I love covering everybody, and I don't like to be limited. Speaking of the American, this was a notebook that I got, and I keep a lot of notes in this notebook that I got from the American, being at American Media Days this past summer as well. But I love what we're doing. I love the way that we're doing it. I think we're building this thing the right thing. And the fact that, CFB Nation is independent. We've been at this thing for about 3 years. And, I've been doing this show, I would say legitimately, for about 4 months now, since April. It's down to 10th month, end of April, May, so like 5 months to be, completely transparent. And I am having a blast doing it. So we got a lot of great topics we're going to talk about and into the news. So let's get into it. Shane Beamer on GMs. And I think he has an interesting perspective because he kind of throwing shade at GMs. South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer, if you've been sitting on a rock and don't know who South Carolina's head coach is, warns college football about the dangers of NFL-style general managers, saying he refused to hand over roster control and that putting the GM between the head coach and the AD is a recipe for finger-pointing when things go south. Alrighty, so there is a lot of truth in this. There's 100% a lot of truth in this. I get from Shane Beamer's perspective why he doesn't want a GM in there. He wants to have, the outstanding relationship with the AD. He doesn't want lines blurred when he's talking to the, general manager and then the general manager is talking to the AD. He doesn't want those lines blurred. But this is what I'll say. College football is the hardest sport and the most niche sport to coach in. Because imagine this, you get your players ready, all the off season. You got your winter workouts. Do you have spring camp? Do you have summer workouts? Do you have fall camp? But in between that, you got something really interesting. So at the end of your season, you hit the recruiting trail because you got early, signing day, with the kids coming out of high school. You got National Signing Day end of January, early February. You got transfer portal. I'm so glad it's only one window now, and I believe that window lasts 10 days. It is so difficult to coach in a sport because you're constantly – now, this is if you're transformational coaching and not transactional coaching. That's verbiage that we've discussed on the show before, so it shouldn't be shouldn't be new to anybody that's been watching this show. The one percenters, as we like to say, shouldn't be new at all, that ideology. But, yeah, if you're transformational coaching – you're doing in-home visits, you're hitting the recruiting trail immediately after your season's over, and you're trying to, get guys to come in, to replenish your roster that you're about to lose, whether that, is via the portal or via graduation. You're constantly working. It never stops. So I thought that the GM could be the most lucrative position in all of sports because of the roster construction and the way that it's done. So roster construction, like in the NBA, NFL levels, and, MLB, it's different. It's 100% different. It's through a draft process, and some of these draft processes, the NFL is unprotected, meaning if you have the worst, record, then you'll have the first pick in the draft. NBA has slight protection that even if you have, the worst record, it doesn't guarantee, with the lottery that a lot of people believe that is rigged, doesn't guarantee you're going to have the draft. But you build your team, through the draft and through free agency, right? Well, college football, if you want to build your team from high school, you got to build it from the perspective of fundraising. That's what makes it different in college football. You got to build it with fundraising, and you have to have money in order to fundraise. You got to make people believe in your program. And, college football is a what have you done for me lately sport. I say that every episode, and it's so true. What have you done for me lately? Why should a recruit come to your school? It's fundraising where you find those funds, and as you're, fundraising and you're constructing your roster, you're just figuring out little pieces you need. Hey, we're a little light at free safety. What does the portal look like? And we need some help at the 3 tech, but we don't need a number one guy. We need fillers. We need guys that can come in when we're trying to, shuffle in and shuffle out the defensive line because we want to play with great depth and want players to go 100%, even if that means they're playing 60% of the game. So there's so much fundraising at this level. I think that a GM is a fantastic idea. I really think it's a great idea. Now, I get it from Shane Beamer's perspective. He's like, hey, I'll do the fundraising myself. I don't trust you. I don't know what y'all whispering. Of course, the GM has the ability to say, hey, things aren't going right. I think the coach no longer has a good read on his team. Let's go find somebody else. So I get it from that perspective. I understand it fully why Shane Beamer believes that. But me personally, I think Shane Beamer is an outstanding coach in this sport. Trust no one. So I do get that 100% why he doesn't want to have anybody in that role. Well, why don't you suggest somebody that you trust? Maybe it's a former, South Carolina legend. Maybe it's somebody, you coached once upon a time. Why don't you suggest that? But I think every school should go after a GM because I tell you what. Now, I'm sure there'll be times that Brent Venables and Jim Nagy don't see eye to eye. The guy from the Reese Senior Bowl, who's now the GM at Oklahoma. I'm sure there'll be times they don't see eye to eye. But as it pertains to fundraising and roster construction, this is something he did as a scout, but it's also furthermore something that he did at the Senior Bowl. He was able to, figure out, hey, what players we should invite, and he wasn't just inviting from the FBS. Is there, or just the, the P4. He was inviting at the G5. He was inviting FCS kids. If there was a D2 kid out there, he would probably invite them as well. So he understands roster construction. Also have a great relationship with the NFL, so he also knows what that development looks there and how to properly develop players to get them ready for the next level. I think if the GM position is done right, it's very lucrative. But I do understand where Shane Beamer is coming from. But here, even though I'm not a coach, and, of course, his opinion is valued more than mine, I just don't agree with him. I believe if you found a guy like a lot of people talk about the success Sean McDermott has had with Buffalo. That success isn't the same without Brandon Beane, who just has an eye for talent and know how to will and deal at draft night and get a kid from Wyoming that wasn't accurate at all. He said, we can groom this guy. He has a strong arm. We know he can play in Buffalo. Let's groom him. He's more athletic than people believe. That doesn't happen without him. Or a kid who's in Chicago now, like a Tremaine Edmonds. He's did an outstanding job drafting. I think in college, as nuanced as it is, as niche as it is, go get your GM. You know who could really benefit from a GM right now? And I'm not sure if Colorado have one. I don't believe they do. But Colorado needs a GM. You look at everything going on with, Coach Prime and the health issues and, the fact that I still don't believe he's done an in-home visit. That's a little troubling to me because, probably the biggest portion of your job as it, pertains to, transformational coaching and development is being able to, and of course, outstanding inspirational speaker, his kids, who plays for his team really believe in the words, that he says. But I believe he can really benefit from a GM. So like I say, respect Shane Beamer's ideology on that. But at the same time, I just think as niche as college football is, at the head coaching ranks, all the fundraising you got to doing, let them deal with the fluff. Of course, you're involved. Hey, I'm sure Brent Venables and, Nagy are going to be having, lunch or brunch, quite often. Hey, I feel like we're strong here. I feel like we're not so strong here. I like this kid. How do you feel about this kid? There'll be a lot of banter, and of course, they won't see eye to eye, but that's what's going to breed success. That's what 100% is going to breed success. So, like I said, this is a great talking piece. I honestly could have made a segment out of this and this alone because it's such a great editorial piece. We haven't done a governor ruling in a while, but, we had to get there a little bit. Let's talk about Jackson Arnold a little bit. I think people have been very critical of Jackson Arnold, and not saying that he doesn't deserve some of the criticism, but, at what point are we going to look at coaching, right? And, we saw Jackson Arnold in Norman last year. We saw that he struggled in that Seth Luttrell system. Not only he, the backup kid, Hawkins, that they have a quarterback, struggled in that Seth Luttrell system as well. But we seen Peyton Thorne also struggle early on in his Hugh Freeze system. Like, Jackson Arnold is dynamic. He's dynamic as a runner. Yes, there are more, passes he need to make, but they've played a tough schedule. I think, I'm not trying to make excuses for Auburn, but they played Texas A&M. They played Baylor. What was the other game that they played? It was a really good game. They lost by a little bit, and now I'm ready to pull up their schedule. Like, they've played a pretty decent schedule, and I don't want to make excuses for them. I believe they're 2-2 at the moment, but I know a lot of people were kind of blaming him for everything. Who was the other game? It was Texas A&M. It was Oklahoma that they lost 24-17. They beat South Alabama, beat Ball State, and beat Baylor. So they're actually 3-2 at the moment. So it's not the end-all, be-all. They still have a really tough slate down the stretch. Does Jackson Arnold got to play better? Absolutely. But, you look at that wide receiver core. You look at their ability to run the ball. The defense played outstanding versus Texas A&M team that was extremely hot. We saw them go to South Bend and score a lot of points. So I don't know. I'm not so critical of people this early in the season. I'm more critical of coaches than I am players because I'm a scheme guy. And I think if you've been watching the show long enough, you already understand that I'm a scheme guy. But, hey, I hope he has a lot of success. Coming out of high school, he was supposed to be one of those people who was really supposed to be a stud at that quarterback class. I remember we were having discussions with CFB Nation. Who's better? Is it Nico Iamaleava? Is it, Arch Manning? Is it Jackson Arnold? We were truly trying to figure out who's the best quarterback of that class. And all three of them, I think, are struggling right now. So we'll visit this in a few weeks and see how things are going for Jackson Arnold. Kate Klubnik talks about Clemson, and I don't want to say it bothers me, but this vernacular, this verbiage does grind my gears, for lack of better words. So he insists that Clemson's 1-3 and start isn't as bad as it looks, saying that they're just a few plays from flipping the narrative. Their offense ranks 116th in the nation right now in scoring offense. So being just a few plays away is no. That's incorrect, Kate Klubnik. I don't agree with you. Imagine I'm not in the huddle. I'm not in practices with you. I'm not sure what you and, Garrett Riley are seeing. I know you guys haven't had Antonio Williams healthy all season. But what I will say is this. I was credentialed for the Syracuse-Clemson game. And I was there before we left for Bobby Dodd because that's the day that we did the triple dip. We went to Syracuse, Clemson. Then we went to Georgia Tech Temple. Then we went to Kennesaw State, Arkansas State. I enjoyed the Kennesaw State atmosphere more than the other atmospheres, believe it or not, even though they were both electric in their own right. I'm just a lover of college football, and I love G5 football, to be completely honest with you. But at that Syracuse game and Clemson game, it's in Clemson. It's in Death Valley. And the fans show out. The fans going to always show up, and the fans are going to always show out. That's something you're going to get from a Clemson fan base. And guess what? They're really educated upon their team. They know ball. They will test you if they think you media. And I love that about Clemson. I enjoy going to Clemson every time I go to Clemson. So just being in the atmosphere, like I said, it's mind-boggling. It's like a outer body experience. That's what it reminds me of being there. And the fact that the fans showed up, they were loud. You could barely hear yourself think at kickoff. And then Steve Angeli drove them all the way down the field. Boop, they're up 7-0. So Fran Brown has a great idea to say, you know what? We're going to pre-plan this all week. And listening to the offensive coordinator at Syracuse, one thing that Fran Brown really took from Kirby Smart was walkthroughs. So they do a lot of walkthroughs. When I say a lot, that's myriads of walkthroughs is what they do at Syracuse. It's an SEC thing. So I can't imagine the amount of times they walked through that onside kick. How they was going to get it, how they catch them off guard. I'm sure they looked at film, noticed that they was a little bit lax on these kick returns, and it was something that they were able to get, right? So Syracuse goes up 10-0. You see the heart and soul of Clemson leave. And that's when I hit up more like, yo, I'm ready to go to Bobby Dodd. But you just see it. Like when you're there and you're in that environment, you just see it. So I don't think they're a few plays away from things being a different narrative. Now, we can go back to the LSU game. Yes, they were a few plays away from the LSU game. Absolutely. A few things go their way. They definitely won that game. And based on what I seen that day, they should have won that game. No doubt in my mind. Troy game. Few plays go the other way, they lose that game. They were abysmal in the first half. If I'm not mistaken, it was down like 16 or 16-3 at halftime. That's embarrassing, and I'm not saying that, John Summerall did an outstanding job building them before he went to Tulane, so I'm not saying they're not a good G5 program, but come on, dog. You are Clemson. You are at home. These losses are happening at home. Embarrassment. Georgia Tech, yes, you had opportunities to make plays in that game. Syracuse, no, you lost. You lost. You can't sit there and say, a couple plays here, a couple plays there. We really had them. No, you can't say that, Kate. And I respect you, and I do believe that you can turn this thing around this upcoming year. But at the current moment, you guys are wasting millions, and I'm heartbroken for you. So let's fix it. Let's be honest. Let's look ourselves in the mirror and figure out what's going on. You guys had a bye week this past week. Let's see what you look like next week. All right, so Makhi Hughes is redshirting. Let me tell you something about this sport we love in college football. So, I think people in the media like myself, we always place distinction between success at the group of five level. You can kind of use, advanced analytics to do like predictive measures on how successful somebody is going to be. But you look at a guy like Makhi Hughes, rushed for over 1,400 yards at Tulane last year. And immediately, because we're one percenters and because we love college football, we was like, oh, dude, he's going to be nasty at Oregon. He was struggling to hit the field. That's how talented a lot of these teams are. So he's going to redshirt the rest of this year. It'll be interesting to see what happens, where he decides to go. I just hope the next place he goes, I don't want to say guarantees, but he's given, hey, you will be given looks to be our RB1 heading into the end. I'm sure Dan Lanning gave him those, same guarantees, but the running back coach and Will Stein probably is like, hey, we like Noah winning it, right? And it's heartbreaking sometimes. You just look at this kid talent, and it almost feels like a wasted year, but don't use it as a wasted year. You can redshirt. You can still practice with the team. Hell, actually be scout team running back. Just continue to work and just try to figure out, hey, where am I going next? Who's looking like star running backs? What schemes look the best for me? And just trust yourself, bro. You'll be back, man. Just a bump in the road, dog. Keep driving. You're going to be all right, Makhi Hughes, for real. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for sure. So Matt Rhule's no excuse message. You know what's funny about college football? Us the media, we have these sayings like Matt Rhule, year 3 rule, Matt Rhule. Like, this is something that we say as college football media. But, like, I think he's starting to believe it, bro, because, some of the discussions and coach speak that we've got from him, I forgot who they were playing. They were up 33-0 at halftime. He gave an amazing speech. I always tell everybody, I got 1 5-yard run in me. That's it. I'm going to need good blocking. You know what I'm saying? Cut back, get my 5 yards. I'm done. I'm never, you know what I'm saying? That's all I got me. I got another 5-yard curry in me. But Matt Rhule just always seems to find these things, these little tidbits. And I don't want to jinx him, but I am going to say something. I think Matt Rhule will be outstanding in the media. I truly believe that Matt Rhule would be outstanding in the media. I really think he would be. And it's not that he isn't a great coach. I think he's an outstanding coach. I think the roar that he's restored in Lincoln, Nebraska is outstanding. You know what I'm saying? But I really do think he'll be great in the media. I really do. So after Nebraska's lost to Michigan, Rhule shut down all excuses. No one cares about your feelings. Play better. And you just got to love that. You just got to love that mindset. You just got to love that message. Nebraska got a good game this week. They're back at home. They're playing a really hungry team. That team from East Lansing with Jonathan Smith as the head coach and Aiden Childs and Nick Marsh are coming to town, and I really like that team. That's a game we will discuss later on in the week. We're not discussing today, but that's our Into the News segment, man. Shout out for everybody who always show love and support this show. Even if you just watch it just to watch it, or you watching while you're driving home, just because you want to hear a different perspective, I truly do appreciate you. I also appreciate all my dogs in the media holding it down. I appreciate the gang at CFB Nation, man. Y'all know how I go. My dog Jalen, my dog Moon, my dog Nino, my dog Dino, my dog Boomer, Director Mike. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I also appreciate Dante, you know what I'm saying, from ECG, my dog SC Romero. Hopefully I didn't forget to shout anybody out, but I appreciate everybody who was out here grinding, putting that work in. Trust me, I love to see it. I know what you guys go through. Y'all know what I go through. It's a little bit different when you got to do all of your set designs. You got to do all of your tickers, right? That's something that we you know what I'm saying? It's like a badge of honor. Like, the big dogs don't got to do what we got to do. They don't got to set up the YouTube thumbnail and chop up the videos and make shorts and, you know what I'm saying, do your set designs, figure out a way to put a ticker in OBS. They don't got to do none of that, right? So we wear like a badge of honor. So shout out to everybody, independent, minimal backing, who just getting it out the mud. I truly appreciate you guys, and get yourself a pat on the back, man. So let's get into the breakdown. That was Into the News, man. All right, so we got CBS top 25 quarterbacks. I love going over this list every week. I love reacting to this list every week. And I love to monitor how it changes from week to week. So this week, Trinidad Chambliss is at number 1. Ole Miss is scary. Ole Miss is really scary. Me and my dog Dante of ECG had this discussion yesterday. Trinidad Chambliss is must-see TV. The poise he has in a pocket, his scrambling ability, he's not afraid to get down either. Really smart, The fact that he was able to have, 385 total yards, 71 on the ground, 314 through the air. He deserves to be up here at number 1. I love it. Diego Pavia has been playing outstanding this year. Remember in the summertime when we all thought he was crazy? Bro, you got your little 6-6. You went to a bowl game. What Thugger say? Whoop-dee-doo. We're like, come on, bro. Like, stop talking stupid. Y'all the team to be in Tennessee? All right, buddy. Like, we're not really believing him, but he believes it. Like, something is really wrong with Diego Pavia. Like, I think sometimes Diego Pavia, I don't want to say he forgot that he was at New Mexico State. I got to see this kid play in person. When they played Liberty in the Conference USA Championship in 2023, if the closet wasn't a little far away, I'd have run my hat and show y'all the hat that I got from that day. But this kid, like the chip he has on his shoulder is just truly amazing. It's outstanding. And everybody who grew up with like Napoleon complex, I'm one of them people. And most people like of our stature can't admit they got Napoleon complex. I got Napoleon complex. I know it, but I don't care, bro. I'ma still crash out. We love people like Diego Pavia, so he definitely deserves to be number 2 on this list. Hanks King ain't doing nothing but winning. That Wake Forest game, I've already talked about that Sunday on a reaction show. If you want to see my reaction to that, you guys can see it over on YouTube or on Rumble. It's also on Rumble as well. But he just continues to just do everything. Like, nothing was working for them that day. Brick Key's the type of coach, like, the toughness he instills in his team. And Haynes King just said, don't worry. I got it. Mariah Carey, when a hero comes along, we Gucci. I'm going to take care of you. But this kid really brought them back. It was late in the third, almost early fourth quarter. They were down 20-3. And to win that game in the facet that they won it in Winston-Salem, the kids was ready to beat Charlottesville record for rushing the field. So, yeah, he deserves to be number 2. Fernando Mendoza, Indiana, comes in at number 4. Iowa should have won that game. You know how we say on the show, no more victories, but I looked at Iowa after that, and I said, Iowa going to upset some teams. There's going to be a team that plays Iowa that's looking like the best team in the country. They're going to go to Kinnick and lose. I promise you they're going to go to Kinnick and lose. It's Kirk Ferentz special. It's something that he always does. Ty Simpson is playing out of his mind. I'm loving the way this list is shaping out right now. Dante Moore at 6 probably should be higher. I mean, he did just go into Happy Valley and come out with a win. Cold-blooded. Cool, calm, collected. That kid is amazing. CJ Carr alert. CJ Carr alert. He said, I don't talk about CJ Carr enough. Yeah, he looked like Joe Montana versus Arkansas this past weekend. 56-13 is what got my dog Sam Pittman fired. Sawyer Robinson for Baylor. I'm not surprised. I was talking about Sawyer Robinson all offseason. When everybody was talking about, Baron Morton, who I'm a fan of, Josh Hoover, who I'm a fan of, but a lot of people talking about Sam Levitt being a dude, and I had Sawyer Robinson 5th on my quarterback list, not in the Big 12. I'm talking about 5th overall because I knew this kid was about to just kill it. I think he got like 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on the season. Do not count the Baylor Bears out. I repeat, do not count them out. I promise you, this thing in the Big 12 is about to get real unchy. That cannibalism effect that we always like to talk about in the media is about to happen in the Big 12. Do not count this kid out. This kid is impressive. And I believe when scouts get around him and they see he's a legit 6'4", they see that he's agile, they see that there's a throw that he can make. I'm telling you, this Sawyer Robinson kid is effective. Josh Hoover, outstanding. They should have beat Arizona State. No more victories. We'll continue that mantra. They should have beat them. I wish Eric McAllister was playing. I think they definitely beat them if Eric McAllister was playing. But you could tell Josh Hoover needed his number 1 wide receiver that day. But no excuses. Jaden Maava is on this list. They did lose to Illinois this past weekend. Had opportunities versus Illinois, but I told Jalen that I thought Illinois would find a way to gut that game out. Speaking of which, I need to contact Jalen. He's probably called me already. We got a show to do tomorrow, so that'll be interesting. Luke Altmaier, they just don't put enough respect on this man's game. They just don't, I don't know why, but we're going to let them continue to do that. I know what this kid takes. If it's a clutch moment and I need somebody to go down and give me some points, whether it's a field goal or touchdown or win a game, I don't think there's another quarterback in the country I'm taking over Luke Altmaier in the clutch. I'm being honest. You guys may not like that answer, but it is what it is. I did skip over Byron Brown from USF. He's number 11 on this list. Joey Aguilar's at 13. I still owe Tennessee an apology. I did not think that Joey Aguilar will be playing as great as he played. He did struggle a little bit versus Mississippi State, but they was able to win that game. That game may come back to haunt Mississippi State. I still think it'll be rough. I still think they'll get to bowl eligibility. I think they're going to upset some teams this year. I think we may see cannibalization in the SEC this year as well. Julian Sayin, Brendan Sorsby at 14. He should be higher. I'm buying all Brendan Sorsby stock, and I'm so glad that me, Moon and Jalen are on record. When we went to Big 12 Media Days, we kept telling everybody, something about TCU. We was bragging on TCU the most. And I was like, it's something about Cincinnati, bro. Brendan Sorsby, that kid is real deal. And we're going to talk about this Iowa State-Cincinnati game a little bit later. But, dude, he's for real. Devin Dampier from Utah, way to bounce back. 80% completion percentage versus Western Virginia in Morgantown. They were upset about that game. Sam Levitt, I think this might be his only second time on this list this year. Down 17 versus TCU. They was able to come back. We talked about TCU a little bit earlier. All Rocco Beck does is win. And a lot of people may not like the way that they're playing. I know a lot of people may not have great belief in Matt Campbell, but damn, Iowa State is good. Carson Beck's at number 19. They play FSU this week. Upset alert. That's all I'm going to say. Dylan Rayola's at 20. 21 through 25, we got Darian Minson, Jalen Daniels, Bro Pabilla, who's playing outstanding at Mizzou. People are still sleeping on Mizzou, and it's ridiculous. Chandler Morris at Virginia. Aiden Childs at Michigan State. Love the list. I ain't angry at it. But Matsamaker from North Texas, when we going to show him some respect? Please. Somebody, Brendan Lewis, Memphis, when we going to show him some respect? Right? It'd be nice if you guys start showing some G5 guys some respect. That's all I'm saying. Just show some of these G5 guys some respect. I know, do you watch college football or do you just skim through it? It's on the lower third. Do you watch college football or do you just skim through it? You guys got Brian Brown up there because you saw UCF won some games, but there's other teams in the G5. That's all I got to say about that. But, solid list. It's just a couple guys that they need to put up here. So let's move on. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bobby Petrino. Did not have this on my 2025 bingo card, but we always knew it was a possibility. I just thought that, alrighty, even if Pittman gets fired, they wouldn't do that, would they? Like, that wasn't your thought process? Like, that's weird. Like, he's been a coach there before, and if Sam Pittman gets fired, would they really give him the interim tag to kind of make him the coach there again? I didn't think it would happen. Definitely didn't have that on my bingo card, like I said a few minutes ago. But dang, that's when it's interesting. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the Sam Pittman fallout. We're just talking about kind of where I'm at with it at the current moment. I've been still kind of trying to get my mind through it. And it's interesting. So, roller coaster just hasn't stopped in Fayetteville. I have so many issues with Arkansas right now. And most of it is admin related, to be honest with you. Arkansas is kind of living in two timelines at once, if that makes sense. Like, they're saying goodbye to Sam Pittman by welcoming back, Bobby Petrino. Ain't that weird? So let's talk about Sam Pittman's exit first. He took over in 2020, and then that 2021 season is the season we remember with, KJ Jefferson and how good that team was. Rocket Sanders was there, and they struggled, man. I believe he was 32 and 34 overall. 14 and 29 in conference play. That's just not going to get the job done. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. And they kind of had this clause, like if he was under 500, right? And part of me believe this is why he wasn't fired prior to this year, because of this clause. It's all about money. Above 500 record, he gets 75% of his payout. Below 500, he gets 50% of his payout, right? After the Notre Dame beat down Pittman, set 29 and 27 since 2001. He was right on the edge, but if you look at the overall record, he was definitely there. That meant every future loss literally cost them money. Arkansas didn't want to wait those weeks, even though he was already there, right? They settled at a 62.5% buyout, saving the school roughly like $1.5 million. Isn't it crazy? Like, these are the things we talk about after a coach get fired. Like, what was the buyout? Like, how much money did he get? Because it's a lucrative job, and granted, nobody wants to leave their position. Like, if your family's there, if you got kids going to school there, nobody wants to leave that, right? I think we just have to be honest with ourselves and completely transparent with ourselves. I think what some of my issues come in is with AD, Hunter Yurachek. I have great deal of issue with Hunter Yurachek. Don't know the man, but I guess my issue with him is he openly admitted that Sam Pittman didn't have the resources to be successful at Arkansas. So you tell me, Hunter Yurachek, that you watched a guy who's an outstanding head coach be a hamster on the wheel, and you guys in Fayetteville did not get him the resources that it take to win ball games in the SEC. Is that what you're telling me? That you guys didn't open up your pocketbooks, right? Your wallets? to get some more people. We saw what that team in Lubbock just did. They opened up their purses. They opened up they checkbooks, wallets, whatever they had. You know what I'm saying? They circled around, they circled the wagons and said, how much money do we have? And they asked, Joey McGuire, how much money do you need? He just said yes. So they all just gave him all the money that he needed. And he was able to build, this roster and construct this roster in the right way. So for AD to open up his mouth and say, hey, he didn't have the resources, and I get it. He's trying to, soften the blow of him being fired. But come on, dog. He didn't have the resources. Then who does the onus on that fall on? Does it fall on the boosters? Does it fall on the donors? It doesn't fall on the athletic director, Hunter Yurachek, for you to say he didn't have the resources. Well, damn it, get the resources. You saw what Virginia Tech just did, right? How they allotted more money for the football program because they know that in this era of college football and modern day college football, you got to pay to play or else you're going to be left in last place. That's the way it works in modern college football. You have to pay to play. There is no way around it. I know we talk about transformational coaching all the time. And I know this was some of y'all saying, but Governor, you always talk about transformational coaching. Yeah, it takes money to do that too. It really does. Transactional, you're just living through the portal. Transformational, you can develop, get players out of high school. Even if you get a portal player and he's like a freshman and you develop him, you can still do that, and that's still transformational. But yes, college football is very much, yes, pay for play. So this is the interesting thing. So Bobby Petrino, yes, that Bobby Petrino, who led Arkansas during his tenure there, 34-17 record. Sugar Bowl appearance. Some of those teams were really outstanding there. Now, I think there's a backdoor philosophy that's going around. And Nino was one of the first people I heard mention it, but I think he had heard it through his sources. Like I said, we got a lot of insiders on CFB Nation. I don't know how they get their info. I don't even ask them. I just know what they be saying be correct, right? You know what I'm saying? So he started making staff moves. And I think some of the idea was that, alrighty, Bobby Petrino was probably telling Yurachek, hey, you get him out the way. That'll make you look like the bad guy. You go ahead and soften the blow, but I'll get the other people that need to be out the way. And he fired defense coordinator Travis Williams, right? Let go 2 other defense assistants. And interestingly enough, who's the offensive coordinator there? Bobby Petrino. How many people, on the offensive side were removed? Boom, oh, no. Right? I mean, yeah, the defense allowed 56 points, but you only scored 13, cuz. Like, let's be real. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what success looks like for Bobby Petrino if the AD, Hunter Yurachek, openly admitted that there wasn't enough resources there. They're about to get into their core SEC schedule. If they were going to make this move, they probably should have made this move a little bit sooner to, give their team a little bit more preparation. I wonder how many people in this 30-day window are going to say, nah, I'm going to go ahead and take my redshirt year and I'll go play somewhere else next year. What does that look like? And what does success look like for Bobby Petrino? Like, what if he goes 500 down the stretch? Do they go the Brent Key and maybe what Virginia Tech's about to do with Philip Montgomery role and say, hey, you go 500 down the stretch, you show fight with this team, may not lead to, a bowl game, but it's showing that you stay in the right direction. Do we hire you full time on the cheap, or does Arkansas find a way to get more money the way that Virginia Tech was able to find more money and figure out how to make the resources in Fayetteville plentiful? Because that's what it's about in college football. That is not going to change anytime soon. So this is something that I'll be monitoring. It's something I wanted to cover since we got some updates and we got some, because I believe the last time we spoke about this situation, we just talked about how poorly they looked versus Notre Dame, but we didn't get to speak on properly about, one, Sam Pittman being officially fired, and 2, Bobby Petrino being named their interim head coach. So let's get into some of these game previews, man. I'm super excited about them. Let's get into this first one, Miami of Ohio versus NIU. All right. I don't know how I ended up going to that page, but it is what it is. It's all good. So let's get into some of these previews. We got Miami of Ohio 1-3 taking on Northern Illinois 1-3. Great matchup. We got Chuck Martin versus Thomas Hammock. And I think when you look at some of these MAC teams, some of these teams be about the smoke. They be like, hey, the resources aren't plentiful here in Oxford, right? So let's go ahead and play some of these bigger name teams, right? And get that check and take that check to use it for future resources, whether that's, getting new players there or upgrading your facilities to make those resources appear to be more plentiful, right? So let's talk about Northern Illinois side of things, right? They struggled a lot on offense this year. Like, make no mistake about it, they're ranking at the bottom of the FBS in most offensive categories. I did see them play this year. I saw them play versus Maryland. Their defense did look pretty good. Maryland's offense they look bad. That was probably their worst game that they played this year. Like I said, I was at that game. We'll be at the game this weekend, them versus Washington. But 251 total yards, that's 135th in the country. How many teams is there in the FBS? Are there in the FBS? There's 136. They're second to last. 10 points per game. Last in the country. The Huskies average fewer than 100 passing yards per contest. That's 99.8. And guess where that's at? 134th. While leaning on their run game, 151 rushing yards per game, which is 79th in the country. About middle of the road, that's actually not too shabby. And when I was at the Maryland game, their running back did break for a long running back there. But, this offense needs consistency. It needs a lot of consistency. Quarterback Josh Hoist has thrown for only 376 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Running back Telly Johnson Jr. leads the ground attack. He got 252 yards and 1 score. Receiver De'Ari Rogers has been a top target with 224 yards and a touchdown on the season. Now, when we think about Northern Illinois, I started to think about their defense. Their defense is playing outstanding. I told you guys. And both of these teams, I said respectfully, have scheduled difficult non-con schedules. That's how you get in money, right? When you start to understand this college football thing, at its purest point, you start to see how a lot of it adds up, right? Defense is playing pretty good. They're only allowing 20.3 points per game. That's 49th in the country. But when you look at it, hey, a 68 power 4 schools, and then another 68 group of 5 schools, so the fact that they're 49th in the nation, they're doing an outstanding job. And then you consider the fact that, hey, they played some really good teams. I believe it was NIU who had a game versus San Diego State, and the final was 6-3. They're playing outstanding defense, bro. It's frustrating. Against the pass, they're 28th in the nation. They're only allowing 28 yards per game in the pass. They've been tough in the red zone as well. They're 54th nationally. But, continue to get dragged now by one of the worst third down percentages, in the country at 27.9%. That's 130th. So it's any area for improvement for them. This is definitely the area. And I talked about that 6-3 loss to San Diego State. That is embarrassing. That is absolutely embarrassing, that type of score. Now, back in the day, if you're a purist and you watching the Pittsburgh Steelers, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about Cowher days, Bill Cowher days, right? You could probably see something like a 10-6 game, and you'd be like, it's a purist game. This is the way that Bill Cowher likes to play football. But 6-3 at the collegiate level is an issue. And I think it's something to say about San Diego State's defense, too, because even though we're not talking about them right now, but I think they held Cal to no points, held Northern Illinois to 3 points. So defense, much to improve upon, but I wonder, right, with Thomas Hammock's idea of how he's going to fix this team offensively, because it is not good. They've played poor. They're one-dimensional. They got to be able to find a way to pass the rock, whether that's a new offensive coordinator, whether that's, find different ways to get Josh Hoist going earlier, whether that's playing the success rate game and instead of running the pass, passing the run. They have to figure something out. This offense has been bad, but it should improve now that we're getting into MAC play. It should definitely improve now we're getting into MAC play. So let's talk about Miami of Ohio a little bit. Chuck Martin, a guy that I respect. Red Hawks, we are really close with the Red Hawks family. They've always shown our company love. One of the earliest teams to credential us, and I'll never, forget them for that. So they've been slightly more balanced, but still inconsistent offensively. But they've been playing, really good teams. They average 338 yards total. That's 110th in the country. Still much better than what Northern Illinois is doing, and 23.3 points per game. Quarterback DeQuan Finn should be a name that you guys know. It's crazy sometimes what happened to people. You see them have success, and you see them go somewhere. He ends up going to Baylor and ends up, Sawyer Robertson is there, and Sawyer Robertson ends up playing outstanding. So now he's here. I thought he would have more of an impact that he's had now, but through MAC play, he should be better. He's thrown for 465 yards on the season, 2 touchdowns, and he's just got to stop throwing these daggone interceptions. I know what I wanted to say, but he's got 4 interceptions on the season. Kenny Tracy, It's been okay. 266 yards and a touchdown. Cameron Perry is the guy. He's really a big play threat and a guy that DeQuan Finn likes to go to a lot. Got 352 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 12 receptions, right? And then defensively, the Red Hawks, they're like middle of the road, 69th in the country as it pertains to yardage. They're allowing 358 yards per game, also allowing 25.8 points per game, which is 80th in the country. So I think we could possibly get a really good defensive game here. Now, if it, ends up being a game where both defenses aren't playing top tier like they have been, I trust Miami of Ohio's offense more. I know DeQuan Finn will definitely be able to make more plays from the quarterback position than Josh Royce will be able to make, right? So, plagued by penalties. If your team is penalized a lot and they're in the lower quarter of teams, as it pertains to penalties, 115th, that says a lot about you, Coach Chuck Martin. Why are you allowing this to happen? 70 yards per game and penalties is abysmal. We have to correct that, right? They're scoring on just 66.7% of trips. They show promise. We did see the 38-0 win over Lindenwood, where, backup quarterback Henry Henson threw for 208 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tracy ran for another 134 yards. So I think this is a game where both offenses are looking to get it going. They said, hey, defensively, we're sound. The other team we're facing offensively is decent at best. Like, I do trust Miami of Ohio more than I trust Northern Illinois, like I said a little bit earlier. But if I'm a coach, I'm really want to go get my offense going. This is MAC play. We all know about MACtion. I think this is going to be a really good game. We know Miami of Ohio is 1-3, NIU is 1-3. But I think sometimes those numbers can be misleading. And we can see both of these teams at the end of the season with 7 wins, right? And you're like, dang, I remember when they was 1-3, or even 8 wins if they can, find a way to pull it together down the stretch. Give me Miami of Ohio in this game, only because I do not trust Josh Royce in the NIU's offense at all. They got a strong running game, but I'm loading the box. And if Josh Royce beats me and he throws for 250 yards, what Thugger say? I need to get that sound in here. Whoop-dee-doo. You know what I'm saying? So give me Miami of Ohio in this game. I think this is a really sharp matchup. 2 teams that really need wins. So G5 governor, I do, even though that's that's the MAC. I got the American shirt on, man. Y'all know how I get down. So let's talk about a big game that we have at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee this upcoming weekend. Let's get to it. We got a really big game this weekend, man. And I'm telling you, we are not worthy. The college football gods have been so good to us this year. We are not worthy. I promise you we are not worthy. So we got the Hurricanes of Miami, who was on a bye week last week, playing against Florida State Seminoles. I'm laughing at my dog Chris walking in the background. So we got Mario Cristobal versus Mike Norvell. I thought College Game Day, even though Alabama and Vandy is an extremely sexy game, don't forget you need the joint, bro. You gonna need what's the name, Joe? On the charger. Yeah. I don't think anybody been there yet. But yeah, sorry about that, everyone. So, yeah, this game's going to be in a great city, Tallahassee, Florida. That stadium is going to look like Doak Campbell used to look in the 90s, right? When Bobby Bowden was there. And, dude, you're hearing the war chant. I'm telling you, this game is going to be absolutely electric. And I am kind of disappointed in College Game Day. I know Vandy and Alabama, especially after it happened last year, was a really sexy game. But the SEC bias, though, I get it. The fans are going to show out. They're going to have all the signs out there. But, come on, bro. We got UW and Maryland this week. We got Miami and Florida State this week. I don't know. So, Shannon Dawson, really friendly offensive quarterback. If you're a quarterback and you want to play in a really friendly system, Shannon Dawson has a really quarterback-friendly system, right? And he's just changed Miami's identity, and he's built them into a unit. Last year, they scored a lot of points. Cam Ward was very efficient in that system last year, but they're averaging 36.8 points per game. And this system, in my opinion, is, quarterback friendly because it's built on simplicity. And a lot of people don't think that because you look at the X's and O's and you think of how exotic it is, but it's really built on simplicity, tempo, repetition, and allowing Carson Beck to do what he do. Carson Beck is playing outstanding right now, 972 yards, 7 touchdowns, 73.2% completion percentage. And he allows Carson Beck to play fast and confident. The air raid influence, it's kind of air raid meshed with a spread. You know how you get kind of like crossbreed dogs? I think it's a crossbred offense between the air raid and the spread, to be honest with you. And they use spacing a lot to stress defenses, and it makes quick RPO. RPO is like a buzzword in college right now. If you don't know, it's just like a run-pass option. And at the collegiate level, they do something really interesting because they add the read element to it. So a run-pass read where the quarterback can either hand the ball off, that backside defense is in, crashes, he could take off with it, or, he'll look and see if that bubble, if it's a bubble, is open. If not, hand it off to the running back if that backside DN don't crash. But if that backside DN crash, he'll pull it. And, that's what I love about the RPO game at the collegiate level. You'll see it in the pros sometimes, but I really love this offense, and they're not afraid to take vertical shots. And it's hard to key on one player when you're playing this team. I think that's why they're so difficult to prepare for, right? And Dawson doesn't abandon a run, and that's what you see a lot of times when I say a system is quarterback friendly. Your assumption is, hey man, we about to pass the rock like the great Mike Leach. We about to pass that thing about 55 times. Nah, it's not that type of deal, man. But he ain't afraid to pass the rock. I'll just say it like that. Mark Fletcher Jr. 388 yards, 5 touchdowns on the season. Shamar Brown 206 yards, 4 touchdowns on the season. Really balanced attack they have, and they just keep people honest, man. And Carson Beck got people to throw the ball to. You got Malachi Tony, 268 yards on the year. C.J. Daniels, 191 yards, 3 touchdowns. And it's a deep wide receiver rotation that fits, Dawson's philosophy of spreading the ball around, share the sugar. We talked about the tempo, the balance, and the big play potential. This Miami team is electric offensively, and hopefully you have a better understanding of what their offense is after that. So, we talked about the offense. Let's talk about the defense. Let's talk about defense coordinator Corey Heatherman. He's transferred his defense into the nation's one of the most reliable units. I think a lot of people get caught up in Carson Beck and what they're doing, Shannon Dawson and Mario Cristobal and what they're doing. Their defense is legit. That is the best part about the Hurricanes. It's their defense, right? Super reliable unit, 13th in total defense, 9th in points per game allowed. That is crazy. They do like to operate out of that 4-2-5, but a lot of times with the 4-2-5, it's a base where you have your nickel on the field. It's technically a nickel defense, but a lot of times teams that let their strong safety come into the box to give you that 4-3 look, that's all a 4-2-5 is. It's truly a nickel base, but it allows you to play against these spreads. That way, you got 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. You can bring, you can move your safeties around. You have your nickel there. You're able to match up, but you still can play the one. So they like to operate out of that. And it's built on positionalist philosophy. And that's something that you hear in basketball a lot, positionalist basketball. When football, it's a little bit different. Yeah, it's about adaptability, situational awareness, and maximizing matchups. He's playing defense like he's on offense, right? The focus is on being super aggressive and physical up front. And you know that they're going to do that with Ruben Brain up front and dominating the line of scrimmage and taking away the opponent's run game. Heatherman preaches this 3-letter acronym, and I love it. It's called ESV. It's excitement, swarming, and violence, which shows up in his defense, how they rally to the ball and create turnovers. Stars are already emerging. We talked about Ruben Bain, 22 tackles, 2 sacks on the season. We got true freshman Bryce Fitzgerald, right? Got 2 interceptions on the season. He doesn't even start. So this is a guy who really believes in excitement, swarming, and violence. And what you see in a lot of defensive coordinators doing modern day, hey, you don't got to give me 100% for every play, right? Because sometimes that's impossible. But you know what you can do instead? You give me 100% for 50% of these plays. That's all I need. You know what I'm saying? For the 50% of the snaps that I put you in, make sure you give me 100%, right? Hopefully you guys understand that. So let's move to the Florida State side of the ball. This is strength versus strength. Miami's strength, while a lot of people's going to say is offense, it's their defense. Florida State's strength, we just saw it in Charlottesville this past weekend, their offense is amazing. Gus Malzahn, smash mouth spread. I'm telling you, this team is dynamic. And the way that they can put up points on a board, they're another team really difficult to prepare for. They really are. Number 1 in scoring offense in the country. They're averaging 53 points per game. They're blending tempo, power, and verticality in a relentless attack. At its core, the scheme is built on hurry up, no huddle, H-U-N-H, and the downhill run game forces defenses to play on their heels while still stressing them with vertical shots. Now, Thomas Castellanos, people have been extremely critical of him. He's definitely made some comments that I know personally he will want to have back. But like I said on CFB Rush yesterday when my dogs at East Coast Gridiron, that I think he means a lot of that, right? And Thomas Castellanos scare you running the ball. They got a staple on running backs that can run the ball. I think Gavin Sawchuk is the guy, though, when I look at this offense, who scares me the most in that backfield. Duce Robinson is a grown man. He is a grown man. And he showed that in that Charlottesville game. And I know people try to put labels on him because of his size. He's a tight end. He's a this. He's a that. He's a football player. Let's stop labeling people. He's just a football player. And if he can run well at the combine, look out. This kid is a football player. Outstanding game in Charlottesville this past week. But like I said, I think that's the beauty of Gus Malzahn's system is sequencing inside zone and power runs, set up constraint plays like counters, buck sweeps, RPOs. RPOs are buzzword in college football. A lot of motions you'll see with them, misdirections, open space for big vertical strikes. This team is really difficult to prepare for, and that's why they lead the nation in scoring. They got speed at their skill positions, quarterback who thrives in space, and Tommy Castellanos. If he protects the ball, I think they can win this game. I truly do. We talked about Miami's offense, Miami defense, Florida State offense. Let's talk about Tony White's unit defensively. He liked to run that 3-3-5. He made a name for himself at Nebraska and already paying off. The Seminoles are 28th nationally in total defense, 42nd in scoring defense. So it tells you, even though they're scoring a lot of points, even though they gave up a lot of points this weekend, they still forced turnovers. As great as Chandler Morris played, he still threw 3 interceptions. That's why Florida State was still in the game, right? So I think we got to take that into consideration when we're really looking at this game. So how do I feel about this game? Doak is going to be electric. And I have a challenge for you guys. Turn your TV, same level, right? At whatever your main level is, turn your TV to that level. Keep that thought in mind even if you have recorded. Like, later on, Tuscaloosa game, record it. Now, I'm not saying that Bryant Denny Stadium won't be electric, but I guarantee you're going to hear the difference. I promise you're going to hear the difference. I know in this sport there's an SEC bias. I don't got no beef with SEC. I love SEC ball. I was watching SEC ball all weekend. But all I'm saying is the Doak is going to be crazy this weekend. I promise you that. So give me Florida State in an upset win. I believe at some point Mario Cristobal will Cristobal. We will get one of those blunders or one of those moments. Remember last year, Miami played Cal, and they was down a lot. He's like, yo, what's going on here, right? And we also had the Virginia Tech game from a year ago that, in my mind, Virginia Tech won. ACC people and the referee said, nah, we're going to get this game to Miami. So at some point, when will we see it? Or has Mario Cristobal gotten to the point that doesn't happen this year? And that this team is focused and they're ready to win a national championship. They definitely had an aura about them and motion at ACC Media Days. I got to admit that. But I just think this place is just going to be raucous. They're going to be ready to play. Florida State's going to be pissed off after this loss that they had this past weekend. But Miami had plenty of time to, scout them and get ready for them. So it's going to be a really interesting game. But give me Florida State in a shootout. Give me Florida State in a shootout. I like that a lot. So let's talk about this Iowa State Cincy game, and then we're going to get up out of here. Really good game this weekend in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I said this in the opening. I'm going to say it again for anybody who's just joined, since we did the opening a little bit earlier. I'm telling you, there was something about Cincinnati at Big 12 Media Days. We couldn't quite put our finger on it. But, Director Mike was there, Moon was there. When we sat down with them and we had an opportunity to talk to their players, I got to talk to Brendan Sorsby, who they're showing suiting up right now. You just had a feeling about the program. So the fact that they are 3-1 right now, it isn't surprising to me at all, right? And they're a few plays away from being 4-0, to be honest with you, because they had opportunities versus, Nebraska, first game of the season. So we got a matchup between head coaches of Scott Satterfield and Matt Campbell. Huge Matt Campbell fan. I haven't been the biggest fan of Scott Satterfield. So I'm eating a little bit of crow right now because I wasn't sure how he'll fare this year. I did have him on the hot seat watch in the preseason, but this is why the games are played, and this is why he's a coach and I'm in the media, right? So I said it earlier, Cincinnati are truly a few plays away from being undefeated. And I have to ask myself a legitimate question. Is there a quarterback doing more for his team right now at the moment than Brendan Sorsby? We can talk about in the Big 12, we can talk about all across America. Is there a quarterback in the country that's doing more for his team than Brendan Sorsby? Is there a quarterback as important to his team as Brendan Sorsby? Because I tell you right now, you take Brendan Sorsby away from Cincy, they are 0-4 at the moment. I guarantee you that. The offensive line, though, is doing an outstanding job. They're keeping him upright. He's only been sacked once this year, right? He's their leading rusher. That's why I said, is there a player more important to his team than Brendan Sorsby? Completing 70% of his passes, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he's sharing the sugar. 11 different players have caught a pass from Brendan Sorsby in these 4 games this year. He is sharing the sugar. And it's interesting. And I like Cyrus Allen, Caleb Goody a lot at the wideout for Cincinnati as well. Let's talk about Brady Gannon's system a little bit and the 8 offensive equalizers. All right, I'll admit I was in the crates when I found this. You guys know When you love systems the way I do, I told you guys before, I have my own playbook. At some point, probably at the end of the season, I plan on really deep diving into playbooks. And sometimes during this season, we'll actually do film study. I'm a air raid aficionado. I can watch a UCLA game, and I do need to do a watch party one of these times. I can watch a UCLA game, and 85% of their plays, like right before the play finishes, I can tell you exactly what play they ran. I love the air raid that much, and it's a number system, so it was easy for me to learn, right? So let's talk about these 8 offensive equalizers. I was deep in the crates. I was trying to find a podcast where Brady Glenn was talking about this system. That's how I learned about a lot of these systems. I'll listen to them talk. I'll pause it. I'll go watch film. I'll listen to them talk some more. I'll pause it again. I'll go watch film. This is how I learned, right? And these 8 offensive equalizers are designed to level the playing field by stressing defenses in creative ways. He emphasizes changing tempos to disrupt rhythm, using empty formations to simplify reads and spread the field, and incorporating triple option concepts that put defenders in conflicts. RPOs are package plays that give the quarterback the last pin advantage with, 2 tight end sets. He creates balance disguised between running pass, unbalanced sets, exotic formations, force defenses in uncomfortable alignments and formations into the sideline. FSL shrinks space and exploits leverage. Finally, shifts and motions real coverage and creates mismatches. The real power comes when these strategies are layered together. That's a lot. That's an awful lot. I know I just gave you guys a lot of information. Don't be afraid at the end of the show when I finish this live stream to go back and say, what the hell was he saying? I want to hear that now. I want to see it. This is what Brady Glenn does offensively, and this is why Cincinnati has been successful, right? First game of the season, I believe they had jitters. They was playing at Arrowhead. We didn't see their offense being as explosive as it is now. But, that tempo that they use, those, the balance that they're trying to create, the exotic formations, the unbalanced sets, using the sideline, that FSL that they talk about, it's incredible when you get to see it on film. It is truly poetry in motion, and that's the best thing about this, right? So it makes their offense extremely unpredictable, and it's difficult to plan for, but at the same time, I want to step back away from that because you're planning for Brendan Sorsby, right? If that makes sense. So we talked about Brady Glenn's offense. Let's go ahead and talk about Taylor Mauser, who's the offensive coordinator at Iowa State. They're not going to impress you a lot what they do offensively, but the way that they win games will impress you. 31.6 points per game. That's 57th in the country. Iowa State could be the most disrespected team in the country. I truly do believe that. They're 5-0 this season, and you got to believe in Matt Campbell and what he's able to do as a head coach. He really does, and he trusts his coordinators. Taylor Moses' offensive scheme, it maximizes balance, so it's very similar to Brady Glenn's, but it's a little bit different. Versatility and efficiency. Quarterback Rocco Beck is playing great. 65% of his passes are completed, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, and they thrive on rhythm. That's what their thing. Smart RPO decisions. Whatever the defense is going to allow is what they're going to do. Moser has a running back by committee, and it's kind of been a thing at Iowa State as of recently. Carson Hansen has 315 yards on the season, 2 touchdowns, and Abu Samuel's been really impressive this year, has 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and they keep defense honest. And I was talking about how Brendan Sorsby has shared the sugar. Well, damn. Rocco Becker sharing the sugar as well. 13 different players have caught a pass this year. I think that's impressive. Benjamin Brahmer got 138 yards, 3 touchdowns on the season. Brett Elkiskin got 216 yards, and Chase Howell got 178 yards. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this Iowa State defense and what my dog Heacock like to do defensively. It's a 3-3-5/3-2-6 flex. They're allowing 14.2 points per game. That's 18th in the country. And they play some really good teams, by the way. So the fact that they're doing this and they haven't played a cupcake schedule is impressive to me. And John, Heacock is a defensive wizard. Make no mistake about it. He runs a 3-3-5. But like I said, it's also blended with a 3-2-6 flex. That way they can play these spread offenses that you are going to see and air raid offenses that you're going to see in the Big 12. That is what it's designed to do. They're pass happy in the Big 12. Well, let's develop a defense that's for that, right? And they love to clog the throwing lanes. Exotic pressure, simulated pressures, all of those buzzwords is what they like to do defensively. So I'm looking at this team. Marcus Neal is the heart and soul of this team, dog. Really is the heart. He leads them in tackles, has a sack on the season, 6 tackles for loss. So if there's a player, when you look at Iowa State, that jumps off the screen, it's definitely him. This is a tough game to pick. It really is. You got 2 good teams. And as great as I feel about Iowa State so far this season, something special is happening in Cincy. If this game was in Ames, give me Iowa State by 14. But this game is in Cincy, and I got a feeling that something special is going to happen. But if there's anybody that can slow down Brendan Sorsby and what they're doing offensively, John Heacock's team can. He has a system that's built to stop that type of thing. But it gets interesting with Brendan Sorsby because that running ability. And I think a lot of people weren't aware of how well he ran the ball. But he's been running the ball outstandingly so far this season. So, yes, give me Cincinnati in a close battle. Those fans are definitely going to storm the field, and that'll be one of the best scenes in college football this weekend. Fun show today. I hope you guys thoroughly enjoyed it. I love doing this. I love what I do. Hopefully you guys are starting to get used to the new setup of the show. The fact that we aren't going live on YouTube anymore, strictly uploads to YouTube, but I've been doing more uploads to YouTube. The fact that we're not going live at 11 a.m. no more, we've changed that to between 6 and 6:30, depending on how I'm feeling. I was ready early today, so I went ahead and went live around 6:15, maybe like 6:17. I went live, so hopefully you guys are getting used to it. I like it. I love going live on Sundays. I don't know, it's something about being able to see everything Saturday, think about it, you know what I'm saying, and then be able to go live and just go crazy on Sundays. So truly excited about that. Thank you for everybody who's always tuning into this show, showing love. You know, people that's in the DMs asking me about this team, that team. I truly appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed. Like I said, I love what I do. I absolutely do love doing this. And I know this is something I will be doing for a very long time, and I'm happy about it. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in a sport that survive in advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, you all take care, and we'll see you next time. At what time, everybody? You know, I got to ask y'all. 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the next time I see you tomorrow. But you will see plenty of uploads. If you want to see those different uploads or, see, breakdowns of the previews that I did again, just check that out on YouTube. All right? You all take care. Governor of college football. We're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
Great
on
defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the ball.